Good morning, S1. Welcome to, is this your last lesson of the week? I think it is. Um, I hope that you were making the most of the wee break you had the other day. Um, I just realized, I'm setting a decent bit of work like every single day that I see you. So it was good to kind of go back and make sure you've done everything. And I'm really interested to find out how you fared with the story. So what I did was I just went online and I found just a story written in Scots. I found one that follows a story that you might already know already or similar style of story. Um, I'm not going to tell you anything about it because I've got a couple of questions on it. But if you have yet to read that story, or you tried and you gave up because you found it a bit tricky, I know I said I wrote it down, but the advice is read it out loud because so much Scots sounds really similar to English and you just don't know because it's spelt differently. So if you read it out loud or maybe get someone else to read it to, maybe a brother or sister or a parent, it can help a lot. You can work out a lot. And then there's just a few words that you just don't know and you can Google those, you can look those up. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of stuff in the story and then we're going to be moving on to look at poetry. So up until now we've only been doing Scots in short story writing. We're now going to be doing Scots in poetry for a few weeks, and that's going to be where the sort of unit ends. So we've got a few more weeks of this, but it'll be poetry. If there's some among you that don't think you like poetry, I'll hope to change your mind across the next couple of lessons. Poetry is great. I know we did oh my goodness, that one about the cat being murdered, but it feels like it was so long ago that you might have forgotten a lot of things we learned anyway. What was that even called? That was horrible. I completely forgot about the dead cat one. I can't believe we did that with S1. All right, well, anyway, let's move on. First, what our actual lesson is going to be about. It's going to be on Robert Burns' To a Mouse. A lot of you will already know this, so we're not actually going to be doing too much, just the one lesson on this now. I think this is one of the classic ones you do in school. So this is kind of an easy start for you. Before we begin, we're going to move slightly away from the mouse to another animal. And that is the animal that your short story that you read was about. I'm still not going to say because you should have Googled it. So I've got 3 questions I'd like you to answer. So you're just going to, I do want to see these answers, okay? So make sure you're typing them out or write them down in your jotter. So what was the story I asked you to read last lesson about? What was it about? Okay, so just really briefly in a couple of sentences. Then what I'd like you to do is choose one line from the story and translate it from Scots into English. So just one sentence probably and see how well you do. And the third question is a nice easy one. How easy did you find reading the story? And be truthful. If you found it really hard, say you found it hard. If you found it dead easy, say you found it dead easy. That's fine. Okay, so these are 3 questions I would like you to answer right now. So press pause and do that. Okay, you should have finished answering these questions. I look forward to reading your answers. Let's actually move on to what we're doing. So we're doing the poem To a Mouse. And it's obviously, if you haven't heard of it before or you've forgotten, it's a poem that Robert Burns wrote after he came across a mouse while he was doing ploughing because he was a farmer. And he wrote a whole poem about his experience of watching the mouse. So here is how it begins. We're only going to be looking at 2 verses of this poem. We're going to look at the first and we're going to look at one of the near last ones. So here's the first. I'm going to read it out loud. You guys, a lot of you will have heard it before. So, wee sleeket coorin timorous beastie, oh what a panic's in my breastie. The needna start a war say hasty wee bickering brattle, I would be laith to run and chase thee wi' murdering pattle. Now, Burns wrote in serious Scots. It's not like Robert Louis Stevenson in Thronjanet where he writes in a sort of halfway house between Scots and English. You can follow a lot of it. Burns wrote in full Scots when he wanted to. I'm just going to go through and explain what it all means if you're not sure, although a lot of you might know already. So, we know already that means small. If someone is sleeket, it usually means kind of quite quick, I suppose. You can describe a person as being sleeket, and it often means they're sort of quite sharp or they can get out of certain situations. Now, coorin and timorous, that's just Scots versions of English words. Cowering means if you're like hiding away. Timorous means you're just afraid. Okay, so those aren't actually like specifically Scots words. And beastie, just beast. Oh, what a panic's in their breasty. So they're obviously panicking in their like chest. So it's like their heart's beating really, really fast. That needna start a war, say hasty. You don't have to run away so quickly. So hasty means quickly, and start a war, run away. We bicker and brattle. Now that's just like with the kind of like the loud kind of scuttling noise that they would make. It's like describing the sound there. So it's kind of onomatopoeic. So you don't have to run away with that little skittering sound. I would be loath to run and chase thee. I would like loathe to run and chase you. I wouldn't want to chase you. I've got no interest in it. We murdering paddle with any kind of like murderous implement. So just to summarize, you're saying, I can see you here, mouse. Calm down. You don't have to run away. You don't have to be afraid. I'm not going to come after you and chase you. That's not what I want to do. So the rest of the poem kind of follows that, but I want to teach you a quick skill today, and that's, well, it's not teach you, it's like go over it again, because we will have done it for the last poem. Recap over rhyme scheme. So if you remember, we often have to work out a poem's rhyme scheme. That's knowing which lines rhyme with which lines, and it helps us kind of know what type of poem it is, and it helps us work out if the poem stays the same all the way through, or if it changes. So just to remind you how we do it, at the end of the first line, so remember when we're doing rhyme scheme, we only care about the last words of each line, okay? The last words. And when we reach the end of the first line and we can see it ends in the word beastie, we always write the letter A because it's the first line. So that's our first rhyme. Our first rhyme is beastie. Oh, what a panic's in thy breastie. Now we know that breastie rhymes with beastie, so they're the same rhyme, so we write A again because it's the A rhyme. Beastie, breastie, eastie, leastie would all be A. Then Nina started war, say hasty. That's A again because it rhymes with beastie and breastie. It's kind of hasty. You've got to play around with it, but yeah, it's allowed. But then we bicker in brattle. Now brattle doesn't rhyme with hasty, breastie, or beastie, so it's a new rhyme. So it gets the letter B. Remember, we just go through the alphabet. Okay, so just the next one along. I will be late to run and chase thee. That rhymes with beastie, breastie, and hasty, so that gets A again. And then we murdering paddle gets a B. Okay, so when we're like, this is a skill that hopefully a lot of you can remember from last time. If you would like, go and have a look at some other poems you might know or might have heard of and see if you can work out the rhyme scheme for them. We have to talk about why the poet has decided to go for that rhyme scheme. So we have beastie, breastie, hasty, and chasty. So that rhyme kind of takes over most of the opening stanza. But there's two, brattle and pattle, and because there's so many of the other rhymes, so many of the A rhymes, it makes them stick out. It makes them sound more harsh. So the brattle, the noise it makes as it runs away, and the pattle, which is like the weapon that he could use if he wanted to attack the mouse. So it makes them stand out. It makes it sound a little bit more exciting. Okay. I also think that A rhyme, the breastie, hasty, chasty, it almost sounds like a little mouse scattering through a field. It makes it sound it's a very delicate sound. I'm not asking you to actually do any work on this. This is a little bit of just teaching and a bit of a recap to remind you about how we do rhyme scheme. The task I'm going to get you to do is is a bit different. So we're going to do a bit of creative writing, a bit of creative poetry writing. We're going to stick to the animal theme because the story that you just read is about an animal and the poem that we just read is about an animal, the mouse. So you are going to write a poem about an animal. It could be any animal you might encounter when you're out and about. It doesn't actually have to be one that you might see all the time. So it could be meeting an elephant at the zoo, or it could be meeting your own dog, or it could be and it doesn't have to be like a furry animal like a mouse. You could be meeting a slug, or you could be meeting a worm. So first of all, I'd like you to pick which animal you would like to write your thing about. Now, if you decide to put the animal at the end of your first line, like saying you slimy, yucky, sticky worm, you need to make sure you're going to be able to rhyme with worm. So be careful. Think about the word you're choosing. Can you rhyme with it? Once you've chosen your animal, I would like you to write down 3 adjectives. That's what we call describing words. So, as I said, like stinky or furry or vicious. So write down 3 adjectives that would best describe your animal, and then use that description for the first line of your poem. So, for example, if I was writing about a hungry rabbit, I might say, "You starving, cold, and weary beast." So that's your first task. You're going to write the opening line of a poem. Choose your animal, write 3 adjectives. Now, you could end it with just beast, which would make it a bit easier to rhyme, or you could end it with actually what animal it is. So I could have said, "You starving, cold, and weary rabbit." I would have a bit of a harder time with my rhyme scheme to try and rhyme with it, but I could probably have a go. So press pause now and have a go at writing your first line of your poem. Okay, you can probably predict what comes next now you've written your first line. You're going to write a 4-line poem about your animal. I'm going to ask you to write in AABB. That means your first 2 lines need to rhyme and your second 2 lines need to have a different rhyme and rhyme together. Okay, so you need to... If this is too tricky for you, if you're not sure about rhyme scheme, I don't really mind too much, as long as you can write me 4 lines about your animal. Okay, but those of you who feel like you've really understood the rhyme scheme, I would like to have a go at writing in AABB. Once you've written it, I'm asking you to write it in English. Can you then change some of the words into Scots? I think that's the easiest way to do it. We're going to write it in English and change it over to Scots. So you know how I said, "You starving, cold, and weary beast"? It could now say, "You starving, cold, and wearisome beastie." Okay, so that's not too much of a change. It's quite an easy one. So I'm looking for a 4-line poem about an animal. I'm going to be choosing some of the best ones to be read aloud. I might try and read them aloud and make them very dramatic and put them up online for anyone to be able to see. So I'm hoping that I get some really good ones and we can try and make them like look and sound really, really professional. So I would like you to work and like put a lot of effort into this. It's only a 4-line poem. It's not too long. And at the end of the day, if you really are struggling with rhyming, just so you can throw rhyming out the window, not all poems need to rhyme, and just get me 4 lines about an animal and try and change a few words to Scots. Right, that... Oh no, I've got one last thing to teach you. So pause it now. Have a go at writing your poem, and I'll just say a quick kind of final thing at the end. Okay, you should have written your poem now. You are the embodiment of Robert Burns. Congratulations. I'm really looking forward to reading what you've come up with. I wanted to end on this stanza. This is a stanza near the end of the poem when he begins to be a bit more reflective about the mouse. He starts to think about what it's like to be a mouse. It says, "But Mousey, thou art know thy lane, and proving foresight may be vain. The best laid schemes of mice and men gang after gley, and leave us naught but grief and pain for promised joy." This is a really famous line. I'm going to really quickly explain what it means. The opening line, "But Mousey, thou art know thy lane," that means, but Mouse, you are lucky. Improving foresight may be vain. You're lucky that you don't have any ability to have foresight. That means the ability to look and wonder what's going to happen to you. So you guys all might wonder what's happening tomorrow. I wonder if the snow's going to get worse or get better. But animals can't do that. They can't think about what's coming tomorrow. They only think about what's happening right now. Then it says, "The best laid schemes of mice and men gang after gley." The best laid schemes, the best thought about ideas of both mice and men can often go wrong. So our plans can go wrong. The mouse had plans to build a nest in the field, but now it's got, unfortunately, ploughed up. So its plan went wrong as well. "And leaves naught but grief and pain for promised joy," and leaves us with grief and pain for promised joy, and leaves us feeling kind of hopeless and upset when we thought we were going to be able to achieve something. And I thought this line was so relevant for right now. I'm sure all of you are finding lockdown and things like that a bit of a challenge right now. And a lot of you will have had best laid schemes. You will have had plans to maybe go on holiday, plans to see family members, plans to do anything but be in the house. The school had best laid schemes. We had trips, we had clubs, we had musical things, and they all got cancelled. They all went wrong. And in this poem, but Burns is kind of reminding us that this can happen, but, you know, we should maybe be a bit more like the mouse and just move on and not worry ourselves too much. And I think that's something for us all to take away. I don't know. I thought it was quite a relevant point. I thought it was quite similar. Both mice and men are all struggling with kind of the same thing. All right, guys. Hopefully today you've learned, well, you've recapped your knowledge of rhyme scheme and you have had a go at writing your poem. I am not going to be too fussed if there's not a huge amount of Scots in there. This is a challenging task. That's why I was only supposed to be 4 lines. And I hope that this has helped you a little bit more with your reading of Scots. Now, please can I remind you, this Scots is difficult Scots, okay? This is probably the hardest poem we're going to do. And that's why I've kind of talked you through each of the lines. So don't worry too much if you were like, I don't know what any of those words mean. That's fine. All right, guys, this is quite a long lesson. So I will see you all later. Goodbye.